Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Milan is back and we're going to look at how to repot a Japanese yew into a beautiful old Kizan bonsai pot. This tree was imported around 6 years ago to Germany and since this time is part of Museum of Bonsai Center Heidelberg. The first thing we need to do is get the tree out of the bonsai pot, so we'll cut all the wires that hold the tree firmly in the pot and the wires that hold the mesh to the holes. Then I tap the pot lightly with a rubber mallet to loosen the roots from the pot. This will make the tree free and we can easily pull it out. If the pot has inside rim, we have to cut it out with a knife or saw, or in this case was not necessary. The first thing I do is clean and remove the top part of the root ball, usually about 1 to 2 centimeters carefully with a hook or a harder bamboo broom. This is one of the very important parts of transplanting. There is a lot of dust and decayed substrate and fertilizer residues in the top part of the ball. Another thing is also working on the roots. Many people often forget that as well as working on the crown, it is also necessary to work on the root system. For example, constantly improving the nebari and removing strong and crossing roots. After all the roots are cut very close to the root system, the next step is to open the sides. Here too I remove 1.5 to 2 centimeters to get rid of all the roots that are spinning around the pot. While doing so, I check the condition of the root system, whether the substrate is still good or has broken down and is too compact. In this case, the substrate and root ball are fine and no major intervention is needed. Again, I cut all the roots that are damaged and long and cut close to the root ball. The same process from the bottom of the root ball. Using a hook, I carefully disassemble the last part, but I still try to keep the root system compact so that I can continue to work with it. I never try to disassemble the entire root system and replace all the old substrate with new. For most bonsai, this is not even necessary. It would be just too much stress for the plant, and of course we don't want that. In addition, a lot of fine hair roots are destroyed, which are very important for water and nutrient uptake. Even if the ball is too compact, I don't disassemble it completely, but I do it in parts and spread it out over a few years. So the most important work on the roots is done, and now comes the advice of placing the tree in a new Japanese pot. As you can see, the pot is a bit smaller and has a different shape, so the root ball needs to be adjusted to the shape and size of the pot. I mark with a bamboo stick where the root system needs to be reduced and adjusted so that the tree fits exactly in the new pot. One of the important parts is the placement in the pot and the position of the tree. Of course, it is very important that my work table is absolutely level. I will lie if I say that it has never happened to me that I finished repotting and the tree was not in the ideal position. That is why this part is very important and must be very precise. It needs several more adjustments because I want it as precise as possible and perfect fit. And now we move on to preparing the pot. First, we need to put the nets in so that the substrate doesn't fall out. I've already talked about precision several times and will stick with it. I try to make the wire anchors for the nets as precise and perfectly fitting to the hole in the pot, so that the nets doesn't move in any case. I also cut the nets exactly to the size of the hole. There's no need to put pieces 10 by 10 centimeters there. A lot of people ask me why I put the anchor wires from the bottom. The answer is simple. I've been doing it that way all my life since I've been making bonsai, and because I'm one of the few who does it that way. So if I'm not sure if I've transplanted the tree, I just need to look from below, and I'll know right away if it was my work. Now all we need is wires to secure the plant. I usually use aluminum wire 2 to 2.5 millimeters in diameter. In this case it's 2 millimeters. It's really not necessary to use thicker wires. In this case 2 millimeters is enough. So we have the pot ready. Another very important part of this process is the substrate. For at least last 15 years I have been using akadama with pumice, mostly in a ratio of 50 to 50. The ratio is not as important as the structure of the substrate and the sieving of the substrate, and not only sifting the dust but also the same grain size. Most people use akadama straight from the bag, where there are both small particles and coarser ones. For high quality permeability and high quality aeration, it is very important to sift the substrate through several sieves and thus achieve the same grain size of the substrate. In this case I used mainly the medium size of the substrate under and around the root ball and a finer structure on the top. And again checking the position of the tree in the pot. The size of the substrate depends on the quality of the root ball. If the root ball is in poor condition, or we are talking about yamadori, I prefer to use a coarser structure, which allows for faster growth of coarse roots and faster formation of the root system. The more compact the root system and the finer the branching in the crown, the finer the fraction of the substrate is. As I said, in this case I used the middle fraction of the substrate, and first I always try to fill the substrate with a bamboo stick to fill all the air pockets. Then I tap the pot gently with a rubber mallet while trying to push the soil with my fingers to fix the tree in the pot. If we did everything correctly, the tree should not move unless it is fixed with wire. After these procedures, I fix the tree with wires as last step and then put finer layer of soil on the top. As I mentioned before about anchoring the nets, I also anchor the tree as I learned over the years, and I always tighten the wire on the edge of the root ball on the back of the tree. Never in the middle of the root ball, always on the back of the tree from the viewpoint. So when I know that I have repotted the tree, I know where the knot of the wire is. This makes it easier to replant in the following years. Precision and system are a big help. I then put the last layer of fine substrate on the surface and pour it thoroughly with water. When I want to water the tree properly, I didn't check where is the hose and tripod with my phone. And I can finish the watering as it necessary. Always check the water which comes out of pot until it gets clear. So all dust is washed out from soil, and we are finally moving to the last step. I always use sphagnum moss for transplanted trees for several reasons. First, I can control the watering because it is very important after transplanting. When the moss is connected to the substrate, I feel that if the moss is wet, there is no need to water the tree. When the moss dries out, it is a sign that I can water the tree again. Overwatering after transplanting is not good. Secondly, I always add about 10% of classic green moss to the sphagnum moss, and in this way I achieve an increase in natural green moss in a short time, which is a very important thing in growing bonsai. Moss is not only for exhibition, but it maintains a high quality microclimate, and in the moss fine roots can grow without drying out, and that is exactly what we need. Next, I water again, and then I put a piece of wood under one side of the pot so that excess water flows out of the pot. And our repot is finished. And here's the finished product in Tokonoma Kazari I did just for this video. Tokonoma is placed in our greenhouse in Bonsai Center Heidelberg, so come to visit us. And if you like the video, leave the comment and hit the like button and the bell and subscribe the channel.